Hey everybody, welcome to Legacy Outdoors. Today we're going to be making some worm plastics. As you can tell with my hat, it's kind of cold out, so we're going to do some of the end of year stuff with the worms. We're going to be shifting over some ice plastics here soon, so just figured I'd burn up some plastic. Got a brand new batch of plastisol in, so we're going to make some worms, stock up, for them southern people down there. They still buy them worms in the winter. Up here in the north though, we can't really use the worms, but still gonna make some, put some stock up on the website. And if you guys want to check out my baits, I'll put the website down in the description below. Stay tuned. So as you guys can see, this is what the plastisol looks like in the bucket. So what I'm gonna do is take my drill bit. Just gonna mix it in with this drill bit. So as you guys can see, that white stuff, this white stuff's coming up to the surface, and that's why I got to mix this, because the chemicals in this plastisol separate. So it has to be mixed very, very well. So we'll get to mixing this, and then pour some into the Presto pot and get to cooking. And this is the Presto pot that I use. It's almost like a crock pot, so I plug it in. Here's my temperature right here. I can play with that. This is how I do these bigger batches. So if I'm making stuff for the website, this is usually what I do. Ice baits, I don't really have to use this because I get more ice baits out of the plastic that I use. So this is mostly used for my website with these worms, swim baits, stuff like that. This is a terrible idea. Don't do this. Ooh. Oh yeah. That was pretty good. Oh yeah. That went better than I thought it would. Didn't miss the pot. We're looking good. Got some air bubbles in there, but that'll cook out. So let's get to cooking. Alright, so to speed the cooking process up, I turn this up to 400 degrees. All I have to do is let the plastisol get to 350, but usually this process takes about 20-25 minutes, so I like to put it up to 400, and once it starts to get around 300, I'd turn it back down to about 300 or 350. Whatever it takes to get to that 350 degrees, really, without burning it and without undercooking it, is what I do. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes. Gonna use my old trusty butter knife and give this a little bit of a stir. But every 5 minutes I like to stir it, that way it doesn't burn. As you can see, getting a little goopy, which is a good sign. That means she's cooking. Be about probably another 15 minutes. This is a little bit of a bigger batch, but starting to get that plastisol consistency that we need. So as I'm waiting for the plastisol to cook, just gonna take a gander at the old website I got here. Again, I'll link this into the description below, but let's see what we're out of stock of. And I'm thinking we're gonna make some black with blue flake. So yeah, I'm sold out of a lot right now. Jack-o'-lantern, June bug, black and blue flake. Jack-o'-lantern I really wish I could make, but I don't have any colorant for that. So I think we're gonna do black with blue flake. Right now I have that available in the stickworm. It should be available for the curly tail after today. So y'all can grab some of them after this video is finished. So we're now about 12 minutes in. As you can see, it's starting to get a little bit clear. It's still pretty gunky. So the key to this is keeping it stirred, keeping it mixed, and getting it to the consistency it needs to be at. So you can tell it's still pretty goopy. By the time it's at the temperature, it'll be running like water. If you watch my last video, you can see with the ice bait plastics that it runs like water, and that's what we're going for, the same thing. So one thing about cooking plastisol is that when there's moisture in the air, it's kind of tricky because air pockets like to form. With the pot sitting in the shop, moisture obviously collects into the bottom of that pot. With the pot, the moisture doesn't really affect me with the air bubbles because my injector goes deeper into the pot, collecting that fresh plastic. And over time, as the plastisol cooks in the pot, those air bubbles go away. So air is not really a factor right now. It can be very problematic though. Lots of people use vacuum chambers to get the air out of their plastisol. I can't find myself spending the money on a vacuum chamber. Everything has worked fine with me without one so far. Specific baits may require a vacuum chamber, but that isn't really a necessity. It's nice to have, but like I said, I've never really had problems with it. Most of the problems I have with denting come with me with the injector. If I pull the plunger before I get the injector into the plastisol, which is my fault, or when I get low on plastisol in the pot, I suck up air with it. That's most of the reason why I have denting. Sometimes, like I said, I really don't have a problem with it. So people may tell you that vacuum chambers are necessary. They really aren't. But moisture can be a very big issue, especially if it's humid, if it rains outside. Today we had some rain, and over the past couple days we've had rain, and that's why there's so much moisture. So when you're doing this, just be careful of those air pockets because they will ruin your baits. But if you're smart with it, you can get it to work just fine. All my baits have been made without an air chamber. So like as you can see here, all these air bubbles, these will not affect me. My injector will be too far into the plastisol. There is air bubbles inside the plastic, but as it cooks, those air bubbles will disintegrate, and I will not have an issue with that. Now, as we see, it's almost like water. Let's add some colorant, get to making baits. So to make black with blue flake, we obviously need to start with black. Make sure it's shaken up. I shook this before. Shake it up. So black can be pretty complicated because you don't want to put too much in there. If you put too much in there, you won't be able to see your glitter. So I'm just going to start with about 20 drops. Going to start with that. Get my butter knife here. So obviously I'm going to need more. But with black, I like to take it into stages because you don't want to overpower that glitter. I've done that before where I cook a whole pot of plastic and it ends up turning bad because you can't see the glitter. So this is going to need some more. I'm going to put another 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get the gist. Alright, somewhere around 20. Mix it up. So just gradually add the colorant. No need to rush it. Black is one of the colorants that I take my time with. I'm going to put some on here. Still looks like a gray. Going to go another 10. Okay, that was not how I wanted to do that, but it's about 10 drops. Mix it up some more. It's a little bit darker. Go 10 more. And the amount of colorant depends on how much plastisol you have. It also depends on the color you have. So I have a lot of plastisol here. It's obviously going to take more colorant to cover it all. Still have to be very careful. A little bit more. Okay. So you guys don't have to use butter knives to stir your plastic. There are stirring rods out there. I can link some of those in the description below. I just use a butter knife because it's easier for me. And I'm still not liking that. I'm a little too nervous. Being too conservative on this black here, so let's get this mixed up some more. Okay, that might be good enough. So as you can see, we started with the light gray. We gradually started getting darker. So now I'm going to get the glitter, and I have to use 2 hands to do this. So I'm going to put the blue glitter in there. I'm going to be using Luricraft Blue 0.15, which is a smaller amount, or smaller size, I should say. I'm running low on glitter here, so 1/4 tablespoon, half a tablespoon. Honestly, 1 tablespoon might even be enough. That might have been a bad idea, but we gotta see how that turns out. So now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna stir in the blue. It looks good. Didn't overpower it. Still see the blue glitter floating in there. That's good. That's what you want. Might even still need some more black. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some curly tails and some stickworms. Get both of those up on the website. Turn this heat down to 300 about, because while it's sitting into the pot, it can burn, which you obviously don't want to do. The worst smell you'll ever smell. Here we go. Got the mold set up here. 5-inch stickworm, 8-inch curly tail. Got the clamps on the curly tail because I do sometimes have problems with this one flashing. Let's get to injecting. Safety first, always put on gloves. This is 350-degree plastisol. You don't want to burn yourself on this. I've done it before. Save yourself a trip from the emergency room. Here we go. We're going to go with the 8-inch curly tails first. Holding a little bit of pressure. Okay, and now the 5-inch stickworms, which I have 2 molds of here. So I'll make a whole bag of baits there. This curly tail mold is an 8 cavity, that's a whole bag. And these 2 stickworm molds are 4 cavity apiece. So 2 of these molds will make a whole bag. Alrighty. Gonna let these cool down for about 5 minutes, and then we'll take them out of the mold and see how they turned out. Alright. Time to take these out of the mold. See how these turned out. Alright, so now what I do is I take the worms and I lay them all out as straight as I can. So I'm going to let these sit out at least 24 hours. If you put them in the bag before they're fully cured, they'll end up keeping a bend in them, which you don't want. You want them to be as straight as can be, and I know these stickworms ain't really too straight, but they will end up being straight while I put them in the packaging. If you put them in the packaging without them being cured, they will be bent, which is no good. And like always, take the extra plastic off of the injector and out of the injector. I can reuse all this. This I probably won't reuse. It's got other plastisol on it. Take this out of the nozzle. Let's inject another. Always wear your gloves. I will reiterate that again. Wear your gloves. Alright. Let's get this injector going. Hopefully this is a good angle for you guys. Again with the 8-inch curly tails. Overfilled a little. 5-inch stickworms. Hold a little bit of pressure. Go ahead and overfill it a little bit. The other 5-inch stickworm. So the reason I overfill the molds is because as the air escapes from the mold, the plastisol continues to sink into the mold. So therefore, I overfill it just to make sure that all the cavities are filled as much as they can be. That way we don't have incomplete baits. Alright, so here we go. More stickworms. I just peel them off of that. This I can keep and remelt. Set these worms out on the table. Same thing with the curly tails. Just pick them off of here. And We'll reuse the piece right here. This is called the sprue. This is all reusable. That's a key thing. Don't waste your money by throwing these away. Remelt them, and we're gonna lay these out on the table as well. All right, so there's after 2 rounds, 2 bags of each. We'll see how many we end up with at the end. So another thing I want to touch base on is that there are 2 ways that you can make these plastic baits. There's injection and there's hand pour. What I do is injection. So that's using the injector and injecting it into a closed mold. There's also hand pouring, which is where you take your plastic with a measuring cup, like I used in the last video, just a little anchor cup or whatever you need, Pyrex, whatever. And you take that and you just pour the plastisol into the mold. And you can layer your colors differently, so you can have a bloodline on your bait. You could go anywhere from 2 colors to a whole rainbow of colors on those open pours. But what I do is injection, and the people that do that open pour stuff are amazing at what they do. I personally would like to try it. I'm just too scared I would fail at it. That's the fun fact of the day. There are 2 different ways that you can make these plastic baits. Again, I do the injection part. That's just what I learned to do, and I have a blast doing it, and I'm sure those guys that do open pours have a blast as well. I love seeing that kind of work done. We are burning through this plastisol, man. This is where we're at with how many baits we got. So we'll get a final look at the end here. Another thing that I want to point out is if you are selling your baits, before you package them, make sure you look through them. Look for dents, look for mistakes, flashing, anything. If you're wanting to impress a customer, make sure you always look at your baits before you package them. Feel them, look at them, everything you got to do. If there's a piece of debris in them, like I said, denting, flashing, anything, just make sure before you sell your baits to look through them before they go into that packaging. All right, here we go. Slowly push the injector. Hold for a little bit. Don't put too much pressure or you'll get flashing. Lift up, overfill a little bit. Next mold, same thing, push slow. Hold a little bit of pressure, not too much or you'll force the plastic out of the side of the mold. Lift up, overfill. And the third one, same thing. As I'm injecting these, the plastisol is slowly going down, so I'm going to overfill them again. And let them sit for about 5 minutes. Let them cool down. See how they turn out. Alright guys, so when I say that keep the extra plastic that comes out of your mold and stuff, this is what I'm talking about. This is all remeltable. This is all money you will save. Usually I have it in a Tupperware container, but my Tupperware containers are full of plastisol. On top of having a bunch of Tupperware full of plastic that I can remelt, here's a 5-gallon bucket full of plastic that I can remelt. Obviously, it's not going to be up to grade. You know, you might not want to sell this, but if you're looking for bait to just make for yourself or your buddies to go out and mess around one day, this is what I use this for. But whoops, there goes some in there. But with this, I will reuse this. I will use it as baits to sell. Usually, I'll recook it right away afterwards. After this pot is empty, I don't have the time to do that today, but save the plastisol. It saves you a lot of money. It adds up quick. All right, everybody. So I've practically burnt through the whole pot of plastic. This is our final count, or our final amount, I should say. I don't have a count on them, but this is without remelt. With the remelt, I can probably almost double this. So it's a good chunk of plastisol. Gets you a lot of baits. Always reuse what you don't use initially. If you guys enjoy the bait making videos, leave a suggestion in the comments of a certain color you might want to see. I have fun doing this stuff. I want you guys to enjoy this. If you do like it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you're catching fish, let me know what, where at, how you're doing. Always remember, tight lines. See you in the next one.